Your fish is already at the glass before you've touched the lid. You've seen it happen so many times you stopped thinking about it, filed it somewhere under hunger or habit or just what fish do. Most owners land there. The fish responds to you because you mean food, a trained reflex, nothing more. But what researchers have found is something different and considerably stranger. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to hand you science that most fish owners never encounter. Some of it will change how you care for your tank. Some of it will make you wish you had it sooner. And I'm saving the last point for the end because it's the one that's going to change what you think is happening every time your fish comes to the glass. Now, have you ever walked into your room and watched your fish come straight to the glass before you've even reached the tank? Most people think it's the movement, a shadow, anything that might mean food is coming. But here's what's actually happening. Your fish isn't reacting to movement in general, it's reacting to you specifically. A study from the University of Oxford and the University of Queensland trained archer fish to identify a single human face from a lineup of 44 strangers. No neocortex, no primate brain hardware, just pattern recognition, and they got it right up to 86% of the time. Your fish doesn't see a blur near the glass, it sees a face it has been learning since the day you brought it home. If your fish could tell you what that was like, I wait for you. I know the way you move. I knew it was you before you got close. Most people spend years assuming the fish is reacting to anything that passes by, but the science says something different. That fish has been watching you walk in every morning. It knows your face before you've even reached the glass. You thought you were the one paying attention all these years. It turns out you both were. And if you are finding this valuable, click the like button and the algorithm will suggest more. Have you ever watched your fish and thought, something feels off, even though you can't explain why? Most people put it down to the fish being shy. That's just how they are. But here's what's actually happening. A tank that's too small doesn't just limit where your fish can go, it changes them at a biological level, quietly, invisibly, over months. Research on fish welfare shows that cramped conditions raise cortisol, chronically, not during a crisis, just constantly. Every single day, at a level you'd never see from the outside. The fish eats, it swims, it looks fine, but its body's running a quiet emergency it never gets to switch off. If your fish could tell you what that felt like, imagine living your whole life in one room. Not a prison, just a room. Small enough that you stopped wondering what was on the other side of the door. You forgot there was a door. That's not a fish being calm. That's a fish that stopped expecting anything different. The moment you move them into more space, something changes. They explore, they use the corners, they stop hovering in the same 6 inches they've occupied for months. You didn't just upgrade the tank, you gave them back a life they didn't know they were missing. And you're the one who noticed something was wrong before anyone else did. That's what's happening on the other side of the glass. But here's what most people never think to look at. What's going into the tank in the first place? Have you ever watched your fish eat and assume that because it finished the food, it must be getting what it needs? Most people do. The fish ate, the bowl is clear, job done. But here's what's actually happening. A fish can eat every single day and still be slowly starving. Not from lack of food, from lack of the right food. Research into fish nutrition shows that single food diets create what scientists call selective starvation. The fish is full, but it's missing vitamins, minerals, and proteins its body needs to function. Over time, that gap shows up in color, in movement, in how the fish holds itself in the water. Studies on dietary deficiency in captive fish link monotonous feeding to fatty liver disease, weakened immunity, and skeletal damage. None of it visible until it's already been happening for months. If your fish could tell you what that felt like, I eat every day, I just never feel quite right. Something is always a little off and I don't know what it is. Change the diet for 2 weeks. Add variety, match it to the species. Then watch the color along their spine. Watch how they move through the water, whether they drift or whether they cut through it. You didn't read about that difference. You're seeing it in your tank because of something you did. So you've changed the food, you've given them space, you've started paying attention in a different way. But there's one more thing most people never find out because nobody tells them before they buy the tank. You have done everything right.
The water changes, the feeding schedule, the filter, and still felt like something was missing? Most people put it down to the fish just being fish. Quiet, contained, that's how they are. But here's what's actually happening. Survival and thriving are not the same thing, and in a fish tank, they can look identical from the outside. The RSPCA guidelines on fish welfare state that captive fish need more than clean water. They need an environment that supports natural behavior, space to explore, the right social conditions for their species, stimulation. Without these things, research shows fish experience chronic stress at a level that shortens their lives, without ever producing obvious symptoms. The fish eats, it swims, it looks fine, but it's quietly running out of reasons to do anything else. If your fish could tell you what that felt like, I don't need much. I just need something to change once in a while, something to investigate, somewhere to go. A well-kept fish does something a stressed one never does. It explores. It uses the whole tank. It comes to the same corner when you walk in, not for food, just because you're there. Most people never see that. Most fish never get the chance to show it. You've had this fish for years. You've been feeding it, watching it, quietly wondering about it in ways you probably never said out loud. What you know now is that the wondering was the right instinct, and that the fish on the other side of that glass has been paying the same kind of attention to you. Tonight, when you walk past the tank, stop for a moment. Watch which corner they move to. Watch whether they follow you along the glass. Tell me in the comments about the moment you first thought your fish actually knew you were there. Not the feeding, something else. A specific thing they did that made you stop and look twice. I read every single one.